Hey, happy Friday. It is June 19th in the year of 2020. It's Juneteenth. Happy Juneteenth. Good day in American history. And yeah, we're here to make the still life as self-portrait drawing. So I guess yeah, I got the idea from an artist named William Kentridge. I'll include a link to one of his videos. He's based out of South Africa, but he makes these really cool stop motion animations using charcoal, and he'll erase from his charcoal drawings and draw back onto them, take a picture, and make these really cool videos using that stop motion technique. So it's kind of like Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, but very different. But anyways, William Kentridge is philosophical about art, and he says anything you draw, even if it's a teapot, it ends up being a self-portrait, since you're kind of imbuing a little bit of yourself into, or inserting a little bit of yourself into whatever drawing you make. And I guess in this case, for your still life and be, your drawing, so whatever you really choose, it ends up kind of telling us a little bit about yourself. But you might want to be thoughtful about the objects that you select. So I borrowed our dog's little kennel again. That's my table. Might have, maybe it'll be nicer and just get your own table, but there's Shaylee's kennel. That's our ground. I just got a flat red backdrop. I don't want to get distracted by other details in the background for this drawing, so that just kind of cancels everything out. And then I have 4 objects that I selected. So it's kind of where if you watch the one cool thing, you just draw one cool thing. So this is sort of building on top of that project. So we have multiple things that we're drawing all at once. And I guess so in the One Cool Thing project, we considered proportions of how different parts related to the whole. I guess we'll also use, comparisons and measurements when we're drawing multiple objects. So we'll think about, there's this Stegosaurus toy. How many Stegosaurus toys tall is the banana? And it seems like it's about 3 Stegosaurus toys tall. See, there we go, that's easier to see. 1, 2, 3. How big is the Stegosaurus toy compared to this lovely little ornament here? That was created by my brother, my sister-in-law, and niece. There's her little footprint, my niece's footprint. She's tiny, but there's an ornament. So yeah, it's about same height as the Stegosaurus toy. And I guess maybe I'll tell you a little bit about the objects in the still life. So this is a present I got my husband. Oh, there we go. Oh, there's Shaylee. She says hello. She's making a cameo. I think she's using her kennel right now, which is fun. But anyways, here is plastic Stegosaurus toy. I gave this to my husband. I love dinosaurs, and I found out that my husband's favorite dinosaur is the Stegosaurus. So there he is. This is a gift my husband gave to me. It's kind of hard to see here, but it's a wooden elephant, and it's meant to hold up glasses. There's a wooden elephant. They have cool noses. They eat a lot of trees, and they actually eat trees, which is pretty cool to get their moisture sometimes. So if I could eat a tree, I would. So there's an elephant. And here's a wooden banana that my grandmother gave me. It's actually a banana rack, so it's a wooden banana that holds other bananas, which is pretty funny. And it was made by one of her neighbors, which is even cooler. And then there, as I already mentioned, is an ornament which contains my niece's footprint. And I guess as you notice, there's that red backdrop. So I just put that behind my still life so I wasn't distracted by the wall or any like posters and whatnot that are pinned up onto it. I just want to focus on these 4 objects. I recommend maybe you could do the same too, so you just, cancel out some of the visual noise and you focus on what you have in front of you. Um, as far as materials, you can use a pen or marker, pencil, some mechanical pencil, use the eraser on your pencil. Also have your separate eraser. Any eraser does okay, gum eraser, pink eraser, whatever you got on hand. Also, you can use some tape. And we got our easel and our rigid surface on which we can draw. Back of a notebook. Might be a little bit of a review, but it's good to review. Helps us remember things. So you can roll up your sheet of tape or your piece of tape. You can lint it so it's easy to remove your drawing from the tape. Tape the four corners of your drawing. There's our four corners. I'm going to adhere this to that rigid cardboard. There we go. Everything's adhered. Maybe I'll make this a little more up. There we go. Made it a little more level. And I guess I'll start with making the pencil sketch. Maybe if you, this could help. If you ever seen the movies when like there's photographers and they're taking pictures of the model and they're doing their hands like this. So what they're doing is creating a viewfinder. So that helps you look at your scene and kind of just arrange it within your sheet of paper or your picture plane. So you can do that, make your own viewfinder. So this is got a horizontal sheet of paper, landscape oriented sheet of paper. I'm going to do the same with my viewfinder. I'm going to make sure it looks wider than it is tall. So it's wide. And for this drawing, I'm going to let just a little bit of review. We talked about open compositions. So that's where objects run off the sheet of paper versus a closed composition. So like the one cool thing drawing, you just had your one picture and it's kind of contained within a sheet of paper. That's a closed composition. We'll make this one open. So I'll just start with the sketch. And I'll bring it up close. You probably just see my hand move, but you might not be able to see the drawing. So I'll bring it up close so you can see it. And it's just going to be a gesture. So we looked closely, but I'm not going to really get too hung up in measuring quite yet. So I got a gesture drawing. I'm going to just make it a little darker so you can see it. And I guess even now as I'm darkening the lines, I'm making some corrections. So I'm noticing where like the stegosaurus kind of lines up with the base of the banana. Just kind of comparing each object to the other. I'm also looking at the negative shapes, so the empty spaces. I can tell you as much as the objects themselves. Think about the spaces around your actual things in your still life. So making a lot of corrections. Okay. See, it's a pretty faint drawing. I'm going to go into it one more time. So you do want your pencil drawing to, start like you just don't hardly see it, so it's easy to erase. And you don't want to get too bold too early in your drawing, or else I'll just kind of set you up for making kind of a wonky looking drawing. Maybe that's something you're going for too. But just it's good to try to draw from observation, make it look convincing. To say if something looks convincing, that's just a fancy way to say it looks realistic. See, maybe that's a little more visible. You can see it's just I'm working from the outside, not getting too detailed yet. Not getting them wrinkles in the stegosaurus, not getting the wood grain on the banana, just blocking in those big shapes. Trying to match up what I see. So there's one stegosaurus, two stegosaurus. Bananas leaving the page because it's an open composition. Things are running off the picture plane. But it's roughly 3 stegosauruses tall. We'll compare the ornament to the stegosaurus. They're about the same height. And then also thinking about the negative shapes. So we got this kind of little triangle right here. Got this sort of C shape. So I also looked at those while I was drawing to understand how to translate this 3-dimensional scene onto a 2-dimensional sheet of paper. So that's something too. So maybe don't even think about, in the beginning stages, don't think about 3D forms. Think about flat shapes. So we got this weird kind of almondy leafy shape. That's what the stegosaurus looks like. The ornament just looks like a circle. The banana kind of looks like a C. And then this negative shape between the elephant's head and trunk kind of looks like a V shape. So it's just thinking about what you see differently. So I guess I'll go in there and I'll start kind of just going inside each of these shapes, making them look more like forms. The form is 3-dimensional, whereas the shape is 2-dimensional or flat. Maybe add some details like the stegosaurus spikes as well. And here I'm thinking about this kind of negative area between the elephant and the Stegosaurus's head. It sort of looks like a trapezoid. So just kind of thinking about, the areas where there's nothing. That also is, again, repetitive. Informative. And after looking at the Stegosaurus closely, I noticed he has this little plastic ring around his tail. Had some visual interest, so I'm going to add that in there. Guess you'll see in the drawing. I'm sorry, it's probably boring to watch me tick away at a white sheet of paper, but maybe, it'll help you appreciate how, drawing is kind of a slow, gradual kind of thing. And hopefully, maybe you have some nice tea to sip on, or maybe you're making doodles as you're watching the video. Thanks for staying tuned in. There goes Shaylee. Just let them know that this is her porch. I'll add. I'm just going to make sure the camera is up and running. Indeed it is. Alright. I'm just going to draw on my niece's foot real quick, and then I'll show you the sketch. So we started with those basic lighter shapes, went back in there, added some darker lines, took note of some of the details, looked inside the shapes, and I guess or forms. Looked inside the shapes, added contours, added plane. So plane is like a, something boxy that I have. There we go. So we got this sort of this eraser box. So there's one plane. There's another plane. So it's kind of a flat side on a three-dimensional object or form. So took note of some of the like the planes within this little elephant. The banana, there's one plane on the side. There's another plane on the top. So just, put in some more details, but I didn't just focus on the stegosaurus. I didn't just focus on the banana. I worked on everything, gave it the same amount of attention. And I guess you want to do that so you don't get like stuck in one area and then you find out, oh, my stegosaurus is like really tiny compared to the banana. And if it's all, detailed and beautifully done, there's not much you can do about it. Whereas if I made a mistake here, if I had to erase, I wouldn't be doing away with so much work. So I guess so we got the pencil drawing, and I will start outlining with the permanent marker. Try to scooch this a little closer. There we go. So hopefully you can see the drawing. It's a little harder to see, but I'll be sure to show you once I fill in all the lines. Oh yeah, you can kind of see it. So there's just starting with the stegosaurus. I'm not going to get into the wrinkles yet, but just kind of blocking out those basic sort of outlines, maybe a few of the contours. And sometimes, yeah, it's good to use your like elbow or shoulder instead of just using your wrist. Get straighter lines if you use your shoulder or your forearm, opposed to just using your wrist all the time. Lines for some like broken lines. within this plane right here, the banana. So I'm not making them continuous. Feels like it's kind of all one object. Take note of this negative shape in the center. So just got the basic sort of outlines, a few contours. You see I didn't get really involved in one of the objects. They have the same amount of detail. And I'm slowly going to add detail across the entire composition. But I guess so while I was filling in these lines and while I was sketching too, I was looking at like this kind of, almost looks like a ladle or something, this negative shape. This kind of almost looks like kind of like the Grim Reaper's blade. I guess a scythe or a scythe. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's almost kind of like this pointy C shape. Thinking about this sort of arrow that's pointing to the Stegosaurus's head right there. So he becomes a focal point in a way. We got this kind of corner of the elephant's base, the edge of the banana base. They're all both pointing to the Stegosaurus's head, so they're like directional forces that are emphasizing this focal point. And it just kind of naturally happened. Even the banana itself, it's kind of leading to the Stegosaurus. And there's just a lot of detail and small shapes right here too. But so yeah, there's the contours. I'm gonna just add some textures, change the line weight, to add variety, and just to make like portray a little bit of depth as well. And maybe I'll add some of those like those thicker lines to imply those drop shadows since we're being lit from above. Sorry, my computer screen turned off. I'm just going to open it up again. Thank you so much for staying with me. Well, all right, still going. 30 minutes. A lot of patience. So I guess I'll just show you one way I use thin and thicker lines. So I guess you see the line here in this banana. It's thicker than any of the lines inside the elephant. So we see that the banana's in front because of that thicker line, and then the elephant is behind, it's in the background. So I guess that's a drafting technique. So when you see like this really kind of detailed diagrammatic drawings of like for IKEA furniture or whatnot, they use this like similar sort of technique to imply depth. So I guess I'm going to go back in and work on those thin and thick lines. Sorry. You know what? I just noticed I made a mistake. I'm going to roll with it and make the kind of cover it up with a big black drop shadow. So I noticed the platform for the banana is much smaller than I drew it. On the drawing up so you see. So I noticed that this banana platform right here, it actually ends at the Stegosaurus's feet here. So I'm going to bring up a horizontal line, and I'm just going to cover up this shape with a black line. So I'll go do it so it makes more sense. Here we go. I'm going to change that banana platform around. Just made some drop shadows, and since I told you about the mistake, you and I know about it, but if somebody were to see this and never saw this demo video or the process, they might not know. So you don't have to throw something away just because you make a mistake. You can respond to the mistake in a creative way. Have a solution. Or you can incorporate it into your work. And I guess it's, right now I'm adding the drop shadow. So I'm not kind of scribbling every which way like that. I'm going, just making these horizontal marks. So I'm following the grain of the stand on which the Stegosaurus is standing. Standing. It's a little redundant. But you know what I mean. So, thank you. Doing the same as I fill in these darker areas on the banana, following the plane, making these curving kind of marks. So I guess you could say they're structural marks, so they're just kind of following the form, making it feel more 3D. So I guess right now I'm looking at for the big or the medium size kind of dark shapes, hopping around everywhere in the my drawing. It's good just to kind of pause for a second, just take note of everything that you're looking at. Okay. So there's a drawing with some black shapes added to there. I couldn't resist. I added some details on the ornament and some on the Stegosaurus, but I held back. Didn't want to get too involved yet. So it's almost like assembly line. So, we started with the basic shapes. We started with the outline, then we added the contours to describe depth. And now we're adding those dark shapes to add or suggest shadow. And I guess maybe something to take note of. So there's like here in the banana, it's useful to kind of reinforce that outline. It's just kind of like a thick line that's following that curving form of the banana. But there's other times where your shapes don't exactly follow the outline of your object. So for this elephant, so we got, curvy shape, but then all of a sudden there's this kind of little divot that doesn't really correspond to what's happening on the outside. So that is where you kind of start to think about planes, and you suggest the three-dimensional forms, where these shapes sort of follow the curves of your object. So you got these kind of interesting. You got this like C shape, but then it gets all pointy, and it looks more like a backwards 3 or something. So same with this like Stegosaurus, his little haunches or his rear end. There's his thigh. We don't just have this thick line following his thigh, but then there's this little bump that kind of shows there's a divot in his tail. So look for those shapes that don't quite follow the outline, to just kind of go inside your object. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. So I guess so now we got the shadows, the black areas. I'll start adding some textures, like just started doing that in the ornament. This dinosaur has some lovely wrinkles. I'm going to add those. And I guess in order to make the details not too dominant, I'm using broken lines. I'm not making a fluid, continuous line. I'm going to do more like dashy kind of lines, so they're fainter. Guess I'll start applying some wood grain on the banana as well. But here, I'll show you real quick. I was working on the Stegosaurus, giving him some of those wrinkles. Working on that clay for the ornament, which has my niece's footprint. And I guess I've noticed that I didn't add like wrinkles everywhere on the dinosaur, just kind of added them in areas that would be in shadow. And then I imply, this texture is going to continue throughout the thigh, but this is in light, so you might not see those creases as much here. So, yeah, I guess it's good to try and show restraint when you're filling in with your detail. But yeah, I'll do the same for the banana and Mr. Elephant over here. Sorry, I'm blocking the view. Excuse me. I think that's all I needed to do. Show you the changes I made. So again, just notice I didn't cover the whole elephant lip lines, but only the darkest spots. And I'm trying to have some contrast too, so made them just vertical lines where I have these all these organic kind of lines. The banana had some beautiful verticals. I guess you might notice here, so here's a line straight, and then it kind of shifts, curves around that plane, so you have some sort of texture that's getting wrapped around your object. Show that change as you have the front plane, side plane. This is more kind of up and down. This is more left and right, that line. So you can make that change to make it feel a little more 3D. But yeah, that's the drawing. It's about done. You can't really see the pencil marks in here, but I'm just going to erase them. I can see them. Then I'll show you the drawing one more time. Ah, crinkled my paper, so just be careful when you're erasing. I'm a little eager there. It's not that bad though, it's okay. And just as a reminder, wait for your ink to dry. Permanent markers dry pretty quick, but if you're using another pen, maybe you might want to lay off it a little bit, especially for ballpoint pens. If you're using that, those take a while to dry and they smudge pretty easy. Sometimes that could be working to your advantage, but here you have that crisp contrast. So I guess I'm the artist. One artist I mentioned in the beginning is William Kentridge, who said anything you draw ends up being a self-portrait. Another artist who, just logging in my computer again, that could be worth looking up is Giorgio Morandi. He was really interesting. Lived in Italy throughout both the World Wars, so World War I, World War II, and he would make these still lifes with neutral colored objects. He captured that Italian light. But yeah, he just kind of stuck to peaceful scenes, no matter how crazy the world was around him. So just having that interior world and finding that peace and quiet, that maybe that's something you could do to survive or get your keep you going mentally and spiritually. Or it's just cool to draw what you have around you too. But there's the drawing. And I'm really excited to see, or excited for what you make. And I hope you found this helpful. Thanks so much for your patience. This is an hour almost. Wow. But yeah, you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Happy drawing.